Hey, what's up, guys? You're listening to a brand new episode of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo, and as always, I am your host, Elvis Arroyo, and this is episode 30, and this week, we're speaking AEW Dynamite, NXT, what to watch, and also going to give you guys my performers and floppers of the week, so stick around for that. But before we get started, like always, want to give you guys a quick reminder to head on over to our YouTube page, hit subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling and on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. And as always, this show is sponsored by Anchor. Download the Anchor app today to get started and distribute your podcast everywhere for free. Download the Anchor app today and get started. Alright guys, and let's get started here. Episode 30 of Speaking Wrestling. It's a milestone for us here. But let's get going with AEW Dynamite, as AEW Dynamite was live this week from Pittsburgh, PA. Staying in the PA region, we get started off with Private Party taking on the best tag team on the planet, in my opinion, at the moment, the Lucha Brothers. As you can think what this match would be like, yes, it was just like that. A bunch of flips, dives, a lot of moves that I've never seen. I'm very impressed, I gotta say, though I am not a fan of all these flips and dives and no selling for anything. I gotta say, there were some moves during this match that I've never seen ever seen, and I'm impressed. And that's why I got to give kudos to Private Party and Lucha Brothers for going out there and putting on a hell of a match to start off this show. And of course, Lucha Brothers advance to the finals of the tag team tournament. And a lot like last week, this as well was a tag team heavy show, as there was tag team action from the Best Friends taking on the Young Bucks here, and also the Dark Order was in action, but they came up short against SCU. SCU very popular with the crowd here, and SCU, I think that they've been featured on every single AEW telecast thus far. They're moving on to the finals of the tag team tournament to face off the Lucha Brothers, which there's definitely some history here from the last several weeks, so should be a good matchup. The finals will be live next week on TNT. We also saw the dentist, Britt Baker, in action here in her hometown of Pittsburgh, PA. And I gotta say, guys, look, I've been pretty critical about Britt Baker in the past, and I did say last week that I think she could be utilized more as a character than more of a performance character. And look, guys, I think this week really definitely supported my point of views on Britt Baker, because she picks up a win here, but this was not a pretty match, and I think this was probably the lowest point of the show. It really took me out of it. I think the crowd was taken out of it here. And again, guys, I think Britt Baker is great character, and I think the dentist persona that she's going with is great. No one else is doing it right now, but this win was a struggle for her. You can see it in the match. There's points where she looked to be gassed, looked to be a little bit out of breath, but I gotta say, guys, not the prettiest win for sure. AEW is clearly going on this route of pushing Britt Baker to be their top woman star, their top female in a division that, to my eyes, it's pretty weak. Well, actually, pretty weak is an understatement. It is really weak. It's a division that I thought would be a lot more stronger with the women that they were being showcasing in the first shows, like Double or Nothing and All Out. But up until this point, it really seems like we're just getting Britt Baker featured on television, and I don't know if that's really a good route that AEW wants to go in right now. I don't think Britt Baker is cut out at the moment. Not saying that she is not cut out for this business or she won't ever be great, but I just think at the moment there's still signs of her greenness showing on screen. You know, it's less than a year, that she was on NXT as an extra, going up against Shayna Baszler, and over a year later, now here on AEW Dynamite, she's being presented as the face of the women's division. And with the rumors going around that Tessa Blanchard is now a free agent, and Tully Blanchard, her father, being associated with AEW at the moment, clearly points that AEW is favored to pick up Tessa Blanchard. But the question still out there is that NXT is also another option for her, as well as Ring of Honor. AEW can definitely benefit from having Tessa on their roster, but again, you want to be able to provide her viable opponents for her, to have great matchups for her, and to showcase what she's great at, because if she's really coming in here to pick up the mess that AEW hasn't created with the women's division, a lot of the credit goes to Brandy, because she's the one in charge of this division, and it's the weakest division in all professional wrestling when it comes to women. I mean, there's some great talent there, but if you stack them up against the rest of the women in the rest of the wrestling industry, I don't think there's any comparison at the moment right now, but love to see where Tessa ends up. I'm hoping she ends up on NXT. I think there's a lot more opponents over there that I think she could benefit from having great matchups with. An opponent like Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair right now would be great. Cody Rhodes looked to be out there to make a special announcement, but he was rudely interrupted by the AEW World Heavyweight Champion in his inner circle, not allowing Cody to make his big announcement. Still wondering what that big announcement was, but we got a good segment out of this because Cody was being provoked to go up to the press box that the inner circle just so happenly had to have tickets to attend their own show, and the AEW World Heavyweight Champion having to buy a ticket to attend a show that he is the World Heavyweight Champion. All this doesn't make sense at the moment, but it was a good scene. We got a good backstage scene, a fight up in the concourse as Chris Jericho was mouthing off to Cody Rhodes that it's 4-on-1, and out comes Dustin Rhodes. It's still 4-on-2. Out comes MJF. It's still 4-on-3. Out comes DDP. So now it's a 4-on-4, and Cody and Toll make their way up to the press box. And very interesting, Cody takes MJF's scarf, who at this point I don't understand, is MJF a heel or a face? Because any other time that he is not around Cody Rhodes, he's an obnoxious heel. On camera, off camera, whether it's red light is on or red light is off, this guy's a heel. But it just so happens to be that every time he's around Cody Rhodes, he's the biggest babyface in the company. And the same thing with Cody Rhodes. I don't know at this point if Cody Rhodes is the biggest babyface or the biggest heel in the company. I mean, that pop from that AEW audience says that he is the top babyface. Now, that might be because he is an EVP and he's responsible for almost everything that AEW has gotten up to this point. That being said, but the man cheats to win. I mean, he uses chairs, he has Brandy assisting him with matches. Where do you draw the line of whether he's a heel or a face? Now, I know Cody made the statement prior to AEW becoming a thing that there's no need for heels and faces in professional wrestling anymore. You cheer who you cheer and you boo who you boo. But Cody Rhodes clearly not making it any easy to like him. I mean, he keeps dropping WWE references every opportunity he gets. But nonetheless, Cody Rhodes and Toll make their way up to the press box and takes MJF's scarf, punches out the window to the press box as Chris Jericho had locked the door, not allowing Cody Rhodes to get inside. But to no avail, Cody Rhodes got his hands on Chris Jericho, even going over to those Dippin' Dots. I mean, JR with the greatest call so far in AEW history. For God's sakes, not the Dippin' Dots. I mean, like I said, that's probably the greatest call in AEW's history up until this point. And think of the many calls that JR has called in the past. It's Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold. Mrs. Foley's baby boy has finally did it. To now, oh, for God's sakes, not the Dippin' Dots. And in the main event, we had Jon Moxley taking on the best heel in the industry at this moment, in my opinion, Pac. And this was a really great match. And once again, from the moment that Pac makes his way out onto that live audience, you just feel that this guy is a true heel. And you also feel that this guy is very in tune to his character. And I love this. This was a great match. Once again, they utilize the time structure, the time limit to this, as it did go down to the final seconds and end up in a draw, going off the air with Jon Moxley attacking the referee and being irate that he didn't pick up the win here. Again, AEW using that time limit. Look, it works, but sometimes it might not work. You can definitely tell here that the crowd was not a fan of it. I think the fans really wanted to see a finish, but nonetheless, the draw element to finishing matches could be useful, could really be useful, could really make some great storylines. Heck, look, this is a good way for someone not to be pinned, not to submit. You go out on a draw and you continue that feud. I think there's some good stuff to come out of it, but I do think that last night when you have a matchup like this, the fans wanted to see a winner. They didn't want this to end in a draw because it was a really good match, and these are two great competitors. Two competitors that if you're a wrestling fan and if you're interested in AEW, these are two guys that you want to keep an eye out on, Moxley and Pac. And again, great stuff from them too. I don't ever expect anything less, especially from Pac right now. I mean, he's the top heel in this company. I would love for him to get a chance at becoming the AEW World Champion because he is very deserved of that feat. But nonetheless, besides a lot of the dives, besides once again referees not really keeping order during some of those tag team matches. Britt Baker, Cody Rhodes dropping the WWE line. This was a pretty good show. I mean, it was a good show. It went by really quick. I enjoyed this more than the past several weeks because it really felt like now they're getting into their groove, as well as the announcers. I mean, it really felt like JR, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur are really having some fun out there. And you can really hear it. I love the fact that they're getting JR involved so he's not so cranky. But look, JR can't help the fact, call it like he sees it. And he's a veteran, and he's not going to fold because he's embarrassed to call what's being presented to him on the monitor. All right, let's shift things over to NXT. NXT as well kicked off with a very great hot match. Rhea Ripley taking on Bianca Belair. This match was tremendous. I love this. I was looking at the clock thinking, wow, they're getting a lot of time. They got a commercial break in the middle of this match. They went over 15 minutes, and this was a terrific match. Io Shirai comes in and gets involved, as well as Candice LeRae. So now you got an element of 4 women telling a story out there. Rhea Ripley picks up the victory as she will move on and take on Shayna Baszler. And this was a terrific match. And again, kudos to Rhea Ripley. Something about her is that as soon as she walks out onto that stage, you feel the presence of someone who is really engaged and in tune to their character with every movement, every facial that they do. I love it. I'm very impressed by how fast she's really adapted to the NXT style, to the American style, and coming over. She is terrific. And look, Bianca Belair, she's the EST. Great match. I can watch those two girls have another fantastic match, along with Matt Riddle and Cameron Grimes. This match, going into it, I thought it might be a squash, might be Cameron Grimes getting up a win here, but I think this was the best match I've seen thus far of Cameron Grimes have in NXT, and he went up against a world-class athlete like Matt Riddle. This was a hard-hitting fight. I mean, like, hard-hitting. You want to hear some chops. You want to hear those kicks. And not only hear them, feel them. And you can definitely see Cameron Grimes, what's taking hard impact of those kicks by Matt Riddle. This match was great. There were some times where I really felt that Cameron Grimes was a little bit gassed, a little bit out of breath during this match. Again, might have been those blows or those kicks. You can really tell Matt Riddle was not holding back. Great finish to this. The crowd was into it. It felt like the main event of NXT, and it might as well could be any time coming up. Another great match from these two, as well as Lio Rush out there on commentary as Angel Garza was in action. And Angel Garza, who I've said on this podcast, is the next Eddie Guerrero. And look, the Cruiserweight title coming into NXT, you got a matchup like Lio Rush going up against Angel Garza. Should be a great match. I look forward to this. Look forward to NXT TakeOver. We got a vignette from Killian Dane. We also got Pete Dunne being interviewed by Kathy Kelly. So there's definitely something brewing in between those two, Dane and Dunne. And with the brawl that they had the week before, I can definitely see this coming. And let's talk about the main event, because this is really the talking point of the week. It's the main event of NXT Triple Threat North American Championship match. Dominik Dijakovic, Keith Lee, and the North American Champion, Roderick Strong. This match was unbelievable. I mean, you talk about the matches that Dijakovic and Keith Lee have had one-on-one this year. I mean, match of the year contenders. And then you talk about the match that Roderick Strong and it had a triple threat defending the North American Championship against Pete Dunne and Velveteen Dream, who I thought that was my match of the year up until this point. But my goodness, did we get served another fantastic triple threat match for that North American Championship, which is becoming my favorite championship at this point. I mean, I think it's safe to say that the Intercontinental Championship was everyone's favorite championship growing up, but I think with NXT being the future of professional wrestling, this North American Championship, it being the secondary championship to the NXT Championship, it's the new Intercontinental Championship, and it's becoming my favorite championship every time. The action between Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic and their meetings in the past have been hard hitting. You throw in there another great technical, hard hitting athlete like Roderick Strong, and you're gonna get a hell of a match. And this was one of those matches. I gotta say that to me, look, from watching wrestling this week, this one match was probably the highlight of any other professional wrestling match or entire show this week. It definitely stood out for me. Go back and watch this. This is truly a classic. It's one that I'm going to go back and watch again. I mean, the things that they were doing in this match, you talk about that power doom, powerbomb, suplex combination, and it looked like Dominic wasn't going to get Roderick Strong over, and it looked ugly, and it looked like, oh man, someone's neck is about to get broken, and they were able to pull that off. So I'm so happy in watching that. I was like, oh my God, that could have been fatal, but it wasn't. These guys are professionals, not some amateurs, not a minor league. Kenny Omega. These guys had an amazing match, and I'm telling you, the things that Dominik Dijakovic can do, and then the things that Keith Lee, a man of his size, doing cruiserweight things. I mean, it's unbelievable. You've got to catch Keith Lee as he took one of the most must-see dives outside the ring. But in the end, Roderick Strong comes up with the victory, 1-2-3 over Keith Lee, still the North American champion. And if that match wasn't enough to have you excited of what you saw, out comes Undisputed Era to attack Keith Lee, which only then prompted the former NXT champion Tommaso Ciampa to make his way out to the ring. But he wasn't alone, because behind him was the former NXT World Champion, Mr. NXT Johnny Gargano. And them too were not alone, because out comes the returning, longest reigning NXT champion, Finn Balor. So now we got a scenario of 4-on-3. The Undisputed Era facing against Ciampa, Gargano, and Finn Balor. What a scene this was. I mean, almost looks like this is a preview to a War Games matchup. But Finn Balor with the Pele kick on Johnny Gargano, shocking the world. The world that Finn Balor is heel. And he turns on the biggest babyface in the company, Johnny Gargano. I love this. I absolutely love this. I was shocked, of course, just like everybody else was, but I love this. What a way to end. I gotta say that the last match and the last segment of this show, best wrestling I've seen. You know, I'm not going to say all year, because there's been some good stuff, and I think that's the typical thing everyone says, but it's some of the best thing I've seen NXT do on TV this year. Not of all wrestling, just NXT. They've done some really good stuff, and I got to say, this is some of the best stuff they did. I could not stop thinking and talking about how great this show was after I saw it, and despite what the ratings say as they come in now, AEW did pick up more views than NXT. Look, guys, if we're talking about the best wrestling show, and again, it could be opinionated, but again, if we're really talking about the best product quality, NXT is the way to go. They just do professional wrestling the way professional wrestling needs to be done. All right, guys, and now it's time for What to Watch. This is where I give you guys what to watch for the weekend. Go ahead and watch episode 3 of NWA Power is available on YouTube. Go ahead and check that out. And also, MLW Fusion, new episode is up this Saturday on beIN Sports. And it's time for our performers and floppers of the week. This is where I give you guys my MVPs and floppers of the week. My MVP for this week was Keith Lee. I mean, again, that match was amazing. And that dive outside, unbelievable, coming from Keith Lee. So Keith Lee, you are my MVP, and my flopper of the week, Cody Rhodes. Again, Cody Rhodes, don't need to drop in that WWE reference all the time. That's why you're on my floppers list this week. And with that being said, guys, this has been another episode of Speaking Wrestling. I want to thank you guys so much for your time, for your support. Any support goes a long ways, so any like, any comments, any retweet will help me out spreading this podcast, so I thank you so much for that. And you can continue to show your support for this podcast by heading on over to our YouTube page and hitting subscribe. Also following us on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling and on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. This has been another great week of professional wrestling for me, guys. Enjoy your week. We'll do it again next Tuesday with Raw SmackDown on episode 31. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.